The Redmi Note 9 Pro is a bulky phone. The front and rear of the Redmi Note 9 Pro are both made using Gorilla Glass 5, while the frame is polycarbonate. The most distinctive feature on the front is of course the new embedded selfie camera, which is centered at the top of the screen. Xiaomi has done well in terms of design, and the Redmi Note 9 Pro does feel fresh without actually changing too much for a phone in this segment. There's the usual USB Type-C port, 3.5mm audio socket and a speaker on the bottom. You get a 6.67-inch Full HD Plus screen which has a tall aspect ratio to accommodate the front camera. It might surprise many fans who follow current trends because it is a standard 60Hz panel and doesn't have a 90Hz refresh rate like some other recently launched devices. This device comes with the Snapdragon 720G chipset. You can get the Redmi Note 9 Pro with 4GB of RAM and 64GB of storage, or with 6GB of RAM and 128GB of storage. The Redmi Note 9 Pro is more than powerful enough to handle anything from basic calls and messaging all the way up to heavy 3D gaming, and with no trouble whatsoever. The squared-off camera bump on the rear might also surprise some Redmi Note series fans. It is a quad camera setup. The primary shooter has a 48MP resolution with 1.79 aperture. Next to it you will find an 8MP wide-angle camera, which is a pretty standard for this price level. The 2MP depth sensor in the lower row is also basic. What is interesting is the fact that the macro camera has a 5MP resolution. This device comes with an improved night mode, super face detection autofocus, and a color profile optimized for Indian users. Video can be recorded at 4K 30fps or 1080p at 60fps. 720p slow-mo recording goes up to 960fps. One of this phone's primary target audience is video content creators, especially TikTok users. So there's a short video mode with a 15-second cutoff. The front camera has a 16MP resolution. With daytime photos, we found the primary camera to be reasonably good. Close-ups look good and details were clear in foreground subjects. The 5MP macro camera does deliver much higher quality shots than we have seen from most other macro cameras. The front camera is fairly good in daytime as well as at night. As for the battery, it comes with 5020 mAh capacity with 18W fast charging support. The Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 Pro smartphone was launched in September 2019. The phone comes with a 6.53-inch LCD touchscreen display with an aspect ratio of 19.5:9. It is powered by a MediaTek Helio G90T processor. It comes with 8GB of RAM. As far as the cameras are concerned, the Redmi Note 8 Pro on the rear packs quad camera setup consisting of a 64MP main shooter and a 8MP ultra-wide lens and a 2MP dedicated macro lens along with 5MP depth sensor. There is a 20MP camera on the front for selfies. This device is based on Android 9.0 Pie and packs 128GB of inbuilt storage that can be expanded via microSD card up to 256GB. It is powered by a 4500 mAh battery with 18W fast charging support. It was launched in black, red, blue and white colors. Xiaomi Mi F3 smartphone was launched in 7th July 2019. The phone comes with a 6.08-inch touchscreen display with an aspect ratio of 19.5:9. It is powered by a 2GHz octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 processor. It comes with 4GB of RAM. As far as the cameras are concerned, the Xiaomi Mi F3 on the rear packs a 48MP primary camera with an 1.79 aperture and a second 8MP camera with an 2.2 aperture, and there is also a third 2MP camera. The rear camera setup has autofocus. There is also a 32MP camera on the front for selfies with an 2.0 aperture. This device is based on Android 9.0 and packs 128GB of inbuilt storage that can be expanded via microSD card up to 256GB. It is powered by a 4030 mAh battery and supports Quick Charge 3.0 fast charging. The Redmi Note 7 is an affordable mid-range handset that serves up some flagship features. It is an outstanding device for its asking price. The Redmi Note 7 Pro has a 6.3-inch LTPS display with Full HD Plus resolution. The display is extremely crisp and sharp. Contrast and dynamic range are pretty good. The colors are punchy without being oversaturated. With the Qualcomm Snapdragon 660 processor combined with 4GB of RAM and 128GB of storage, the Redmi Note 7 sports mid-range power. The Redmi Note 7's dual rear snapper has a 48MP 1.8 aperture primary camera and a 5MP 2.4 aperture depth sensor module, matched with face detection autofocus. As for the 13MP 2.2 aperture selfie camera, daytime shots look good, although dynamic range struggles with backlit scenes. Video is recorded at up to Full HD resolution and captures a superb level of detail, especially in good light. The Redmi Note 7 is an excellent all-rounder. It offers superb value with its solid build, great screen, smooth UI and impressive camera and battery life. The Xiaomi Redmi Note 8 smartphone will be launched in 2019. The phone comes with a 6.4-inch touchscreen display with an aspect ratio of 19.5:9. It is powered by an octa-core Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 processor. It comes with 4GB of RAM. As far as the cameras are concerned, the Redmi Note 8 on the rear packs triple camera setup consisting of a 48MP main shooter and 8MP wide-angle lens along with 5MP depth sensor. There is a 25MP camera on the front for selfies. This device is based on Android 9.0 Pie and packs 64GB of inbuilt storage that can be expanded via microSD card up to 256GB. It is powered by a 4500 mAh battery with quick charge version 4 support.